after these very, very awesome morning talks, we'll go to another company, and the advocate of that company, I guess, whose product you all use in here, and I think a lot of you have used today already. So please allow me to welcome Andy Piper from Twitter, and he's going to talk about a huge upcoming trend about the Internet of Things. I think it's fair to say that he's an uber geek with a really strong technical prowess. So he'll tell you basically about the future and how the Internet of Things will evolve, and also a little bit about what role Twitter will play in this huge upcoming trend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, good morning everyone. Thank you very much for that welcome. And those first two talks have just been so inspiring. I think this is going to be a little bit different in terms of the topic, because we've got a lot of amazing entrepreneurs and people involved in the startup scene and investment here today. I'm not going to be talking about those same kind of things. My talk's probably a little bit more philosophical and technical perhaps. So I want to talk this morning about a few things. I'll talk a little bit about the nature of this thing we call the Internet of Things. Those of you who were at the hackathon got to play with some connected devices and wearables this weekend. That was an awesome time. I really enjoyed that. I also want to talk about why Twitter is a really important part of what we call today the Internet of Things. Twitter's been around since 2006, 2007. I signed up as a user back in 2007. I've been an enthusiastic user since then. I'm not here really to tell you about my personal story there today, but I'm very happy to have that conversation with you around the hallways and here all day. I actually joined Twitter just about 2.5 months ago. I actually accepted the job offer exactly 7 years after I joined the service as a user. It was really exciting. The third thing I'm going to talk about is, for those of you who are technically minded in the audience, a little bit about how to use our APIs at Twitter to actually integrate your service or your device with the Internet of Things using the Twitter APIs. So why do I call this combining signals and context? Well, I gave a talk in London in December, and I encourage you, if you're interested in more detail on this particular topic, to go and find the video on YouTube. The talk was called The Internet of Things is Made of Signals. Why do I say that? Well, the Internet, of course, is made of people. Fundamentally, it's an amazing network, and it has grown over the last 20, 30 years to enable us to connect with one another, as we're doing today in person in this room, but as we're sharing our thoughts online, through the live blog that's being posted, through tweets, we are connecting with other people, we are sharing our interests online. So the internet, I suggest to you, is fundamentally about people and technology and connecting our thoughts and ideas online. But also, it's not just that, it's increasingly come to mean other things, objects. Connected objects or services, web services that provide information, analyse information, and sensors. And this is what we now call the Internet of Things, and we're coming to learn about the Internet of Things. And the Internet of Things is quite different to the Internet of People and the Internet that we've built over the last 20 years. Because originally, this thing called HTTP was for getting a document into a web browser, consuming information, it's request response. I ask a server to send me some information and I get it back. Well, the Internet of Things is much more about things that are broadcasting or responding to information. And this is why I say that the Internet of Things is about signals. All of these objects are creating signal data, which is being emitted, consumed either by me directly as I pay attention to something that my house is transmitting online, maybe the temperature. We saw in the hackathon a really cool demo with a connected house, which I really loved. The house is broadcasting, I'm receiving that signal. But equally, those signals could be broadcast somewhere else, and they could be combined with other information and analysed, and action could be taken. That's my pitch on the Internet of Things this morning. That's my very, very quick introduction if you want to learn more. It's one of the things I've been involved with now for 3 or 4 years, and I'm very excited about. Please look at my other talks online or come chat to me during the day. Or indeed tweet me. My Twitter handle is on the bottom corner of all these slides, so please get in touch, contact me, follow me, and ask questions. So Twitter then. Well, Twitter is an amazing messaging platform that carries all kinds of information. It carries conversations between people. The internet is about people. But it also carries signals around what's happening in the world. Twitter was born a mobile service, and I had some great conversations with Dan Romescu over the last couple of days about this. Twitter started off as a mobile service, and one of the reasons that Twitter has the limitations it has 140 characters is because they wanted, at the time it was born, to fit a tweet into an SMS message 160 characters. So that 20 character difference is to enable you to have a command, a username, in the beginning section of the SMS. So it's very, very accessible even for people without smartphones, smart media phones to use. And of course it's on many, many mobile devices and other devices today. Now let's look at how it's grown. Well, we've got 255 million plus monthly active users on Twitter. 500 million tweets are sent every day. That's 1 billion tweets sent around the world every 2 days. 3 years ago, it took a week for 1 billion tweets to be generated. And in fact, it took Twitter the first 2 years of its life to get 1 billion tweets transmitted in total. But now, every 2 days, 1 billion tweets are generated by people and things using Twitter. And we're here in Europe, of course. I live in the UK, we're here in Romania. 77% of Twitter users are outside of the US. So it's a very worldwide, widespread service. Massive growth. And in fact, an incredible amount of information is shared on Twitter. Last August, a new tweets per second record was hit, in particular when this movie was released in Japan. This is one of very popular anime movies in Japan, Ghibli's Castle, and we got to 143,199 tweets per second at that point. Now, on average, we actually only have maybe 5,000, 5,500 tweets per second. But still, that's an incredible amount of data and information and signals being generated all the time by Twitter, on Twitter, by people and devices connected to Twitter. Why is that? Well, Twitter is a global, open, and real-time network. So we're global, we're all over the world, it's an open API. By default, your accounts are public, so it's very easy to see what's happening. And we don't do any filtering or any kind of algorithm against your tweets. If I tweet something and someone is following me, then they assuming they're online at the time and it's not scrolling past them, there's a very good chance they see what I'm talking about. We like to say that Twitter is the shortest distance between you and what interests you the most. So I can curate my own interests. I can subscribe to follow the people I'm interested in and follow the things and subjects I'm interested in, and I can search on the #Sylvania hashtag and see all the amazing conversations that are happening in this room while we're here sharing this event today. And we also like to call Twitter the pulse of the planet, because it really is. You know, we see worldwide events, news, breaking news happening on Twitter all the time. You know, the Hudson River airplane landing was broken on Twitter. People were tweeting the photos from the ferry. You know, earthquakes happen, and people hear about them on Twitter before the news breaks. So Twitter really provides this pulse of the planet, the context for the moment that we live in. It's an amazing companion to the instant of our lives we're living right now. So let's turn back from Twitter to the Internet of Things and how Twitter is part of it. So we've got a development platform, and in fact, we've got many objects online. Now, this is a kit that you can get from a company called Botanicals that you can plug in and connect with your plant, and it will tell you when it needs water. Now, that's kind of fun and kind of silly in some ways. You can get this today. We actually blogged about it on our Twitter blog about 2 weeks ago, but this was actually connected back in 2008. So only a couple of years after Twitter started, people were already using this API for connecting devices and broadcasting information and signals. So we go from plants, we go to ferries and to travel services. I can see when a ferry service local to me is about to come into port, real-time information that I could not get through as effectively through other means. And in fact, beyond that, let's go back to the idea of things like sensors and earthquakes. If you look at the dates when these accounts were created, February 2009, May 2009, November 2010, increasingly people are instrumenting the planet we live on with information and posting that on Twitter so that we can see what's happening. Twitter is a great output for this kind of sensor data because it enables people to connect to the things they're interested in. Once again, it is the thing that enables the shortest distance between you and the things you're interested in or care about. But we can also do this the other way. We can actually take Twitter data and bring that to the real world as an object. We've got a company over in the UK called Uniform. If you'd like to look them up online, their Twitter handle is Uniform Tweets. And they made last year this device called Kixel. It's a kind of a physical pixel in the real world. And you'll see that it kind of looks like the print of a soccer ball. So this device connects to Twitter and listens to tweets on your favourite soccer team, football team. And it glows as the conversation intensity increases online. This company Uniform's built some really, really cool demos. They've also built one where you can tweet to the office gumball machine and it will give you a little piece of gum. Actually, in our office in the UK, our Twitter UK office, we've got a vending machine where if you come and visit us, you can tweet to the vending machine and it will give you a t-shirt or a mug or stickers or whatever. It's kind of cool. So we can use physical devices on the back of the Twitter API to surface that data and that information in the real world. It's kind of fun. I've got some more examples for you from Vine. Vine's a very short video service that Twitter acquired as part of our platform. So we've got a couple of examples here. Arduino is connecting up to Twitter and displaying information on different things. The image here on the left is actually my good friend Joanna Geary. She's the head of news in Twitter UK, a friend of mine. And she's got a little bird on her desk which lights up when somebody has mentioned her on Twitter. The thing on the right-hand side is what we call a flock clock that was made by a company called Berg in London. They're the people who invented the little printer. It's animated by Twitter activity. This one is at the O2 offices in the UK. We have one in the Twitter office as well. As Twitter data comes in, as conversation increases, we have birds popping out and clock going around and things. It's really fun. And we can also drive object interactions by tweets. This is a picture of my good friend and colleague Romain Duo from Twitter UK, presenting at API Days, and he's been doing a tour around Europe recently at API Days. He's got a cool demo where with an AR drone you can tweet to it from the audience and make it lift off and move around. It's really quite fun. So let's look at the Twitter APIs really quickly as we come into the last kind of section of the talk. This is a little bit more technical. So we've got two categories of APIs for you to consume from Twitter. Dealing with both what's happening right now in the world, immediately, that kind of live stream of information around #Sylvania, what people are talking about in the room, and also we can go back and find out what happened in the past. So that gives us some contextual information. So we have something called the streaming APIs. The streaming API is over HTTP, but you get a live stream of data about what's happening. We've got some different ways of consuming that. So we can either track individual topics. So in this case, we could follow an individual user, track a hashtag. I should have modified this slide to say Techsylvania, of course, instead of API Days. We could get a live stream of data from that. Or we could ask for specific locations and say what's happening in this area, who's tweeting in this location right now. We can also ask for a sample of all of the data. Now remember I told you how quickly this data flows. On average 5,500 tweets per second. You're going to need a beefy bit of hardware to be dealing with that in real time. So we have the ability to let you sample that data, 1% of that data, which is a much smaller volume that you're probably going to be able to consume in your app. If you want to consume everything, this has stopped working. There we go. If you want to consume everything, no, it's not going to go forward. Too many slides. Come back. Come back to me, please. Short pause whilst I go back to the right slide. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. There we are. Thank you. Right. No. This is where I do a little dance on stage. And wait for my computer to respond. Okay, so we also have what we call the fire hose, which is everything. So that's that 5,500 tweets per second, or up to hundreds of thousands of tweets per second when a big event happens. And for that we have a company that we acquired called Gnip, which lets you actually analyse the data and make it more meaningful to you. So what does a data stream look like? Well, it looks like some JSON, and it scrolls by very, very fast. For that 140 characters, every tweet actually generates a lot more data because you've got lots of metadata associated with those tweets. Okay, so that's the streaming API. That's the real-time API. Now let's talk about how we can find out what happened in the past. We've got something called our RESTful APIs, and these let you do things like finding individual actions, finding individual statuses from individual people, or posting those. So again, if I'm a connected device, I'm a connected plant sensor, I want to post, I can post a tweet online. I can also get timelines, so an entire user's timeline from the system. And I can also do a search, much as you would if you went to the Twitter website or on your app and did a search. You can search through the API, find out what people are saying about Texelvania or were saying in the past. So this is really cool, because what this all allows me to do is to build a cool mobile app. We're interested here in building a new startup, building a new service. It's going to be compelling for users. What better way to make it compelling for users than actually consuming and finding contextual information from Twitter right now around us and enriching our app with data. We've got some great startups in our ecosystem. We've got a new one I'm very excited about in London that's about to launch, which is taking information about restaurants in London and actually working out how popular they are and how successful they are and telling you which ones to visit based on user tweets. It's a really cool visualization. I'm looking forward to seeing that one launch quite soon. So where can you go to find this stuff? These slides will be online, of course, for you, but there's some very short URLs. We have our own URL shortener called Tico, and these will take you to documentation on how to use our APIs. And also in the bottom right corner there, you'll see our open source program. Twitter's a big consumer and contributor to open source, and we've got some amazing open source development projects which are available to you to consume in your projects. And they're not just about tweets. We've got some other technology there, which I'm sure you'll find very interesting and very useful. So with that, I'm going to conclude. Encourage you to try out Twitter with your apps, build new connected services and experiences, and always please reach out to me on Twitter, @AndyPiper. I look forward to seeing what you're up to. Thank you very much.
Actually made a great example of being the first speaker actually finishing ahead of time. We'll still take 2 questions from the audience, if there's any questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand.
Just in defense of Marcus, I'm British, I like to follow the rules. No, just kidding.
Hi, I want to ask you what kind of technologies are you using at Twitter to handle such massive data?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. So what kind of technologies are we using at Twitter to handle this data? So we've got Twitter's a lot more complicated than it may look from the outside. Again, you consume it, you just type 140 characters, hit tweet, and your message goes online. I don't have time to talk about every single thing that we do right now. We've got a system that's based on Apache Mesos, which is a workload scheduler and enables us to spin up parts of our system on the back end. We use a lot of Scala internally, it's the programming language, to do a lot of the processing of tweets. Historically, Twitter's been based on Ruby and Ruby on Rails. It was one of the kind of big apps back in the 2007-2008 period where Ruby was very popular, and still is, of course. We've migrated much of the functionality around things like search and other systems to things like Scala. Again, if you go and look at the open source repository I pointed you to, you'll see a lot of things that we're using to do data analysis, to do search, and all those kind of things.
Okay, one last question. There's one.
The bamboos with you all.
Hello, my name is Andy. Let's start from a more marketing point of view. I'm interested in the fact that when using an API from Twitter and integrate it with your own device, how much of the data is available for me as a client about the end user's behavior? I mean, this kind of analysis for me to tailor my content, my message to the end users so that I'll have a better reach, a better engagement, and in the end, from a business point of view, a better sales process.
Sure, of course, thank you. So something I haven't talked about today, something else that's part of our developer program is we have something called Twitter Cards. So if you ever see a tweet with like some enriched content, maybe a photo or something saying, look at this snippet of web information. That's displayed to something we call Twitter cards. Again, on our developer site, you can find out more about those. If you are using cards to share content in your tweets, then we also provide analytics for those. So you'll see how many times a card has been surfaced, expanded, clicked through, analysis or analytics on twitter.com. That's open to you if you're using the Twitter cards program. We also have an advertiser program as well. We've got some specific advertising APIs, which are separate from the ones I've talked about today. Really difficult to fit. 20 minutes of overview of the whole Twitter developer platform, but we do provide things like click-throughs, engagement with tweets, and all those kind of things, geographic information through things like cards and our ads API as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.